In a shocking turn of events, former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson found himself at the center of a firestorm. During a violent arrest of a black teenager, Tyson stepped in, his actions saving a young life but igniting intense controversy. The world watched in disbelief as the boxing legend's intervention thrust him into an unexpected role. His split-second decision sparked a heated debate, forcing society to confront hard truths about justice and morality. As the story unfolds, prepare for a roller coaster of emotions that will challenge your perceptions and leave you questioning the very nature of heroism. As we reflect on this story, don't just watch, join the movement. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell to stay inspired by real stories of justice and resilience every day. Share where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Together, we can amplify voices, spark change, and make every story count. Darius's world turned upside down on what should have been an ordinary day. The 17-year-old aspiring artist walked home from his after-school job, sketchbook tucked under his arm, when Officer Eric Steele's patrol car pulled up alongside him. A chill ran down Darius's spine as Steele's eyes locked onto him, filled with unwarranted suspicion. The officer approached, his voice sharp and accusatory. "What are you doing in this neighborhood, boy?" Confusion etched across Darius's face as he tried to explain he lived just down the block. But Steele wasn't listening. The situation escalated rapidly, Darius's heart racing as fear gripped him. Bystanders began to gather, witnessing the unfolding scene. Steele roughly grabbed Darius's arm, twisting it behind his back. The teen's sketchbook fell, pages of carefully crafted drawings scattering across the sidewalk. As Darius cried out in pain, whispers rippled through the growing crowd. Past complaints about Steele surfaced in hushed tones. Excessive force, racial profiling, abuse of power. The system had protected him time and time again. Darius pleaded with the officer, trying to explain the misunderstanding, but Steele was beyond reason, consumed by his own prejudices and unchecked authority. The situation reached a breaking point as Steele slammed Darius against the patrol car. The teen's face pressed painfully against the cold metal. Onlookers gasped, some pulling out phones to record the injustice. How had a simple walk home turned into this nightmare? The confrontation had begun with nothing more than Darius's presence, a young black teen in a neighborhood where Officer Steele thought he didn't belong. It was a stark reminder of the systemic racism that still plagued their community. As Steele reached for his handcuffs, the crowd's shock turned to outrage. Angry voices rose, demanding the officer stop his assault on the innocent teen. The community's fury grew, their collective voice gaining strength as they refused to stand idly by. Little did they know, an unexpected champion was about to emerge, one whose intervention would send shockwaves far beyond their neighborhood and ignite a nationwide conversation about police brutality, racial profiling, and the power of standing up against injustice. In that moment of escalating violence, Mike Tyson stood on the precipice of a life-altering decision. What happened next would test the limits of courage, celebrity influence, and the very fabric of justice itself. Tyson had come to the neighborhood for a quiet visit with old friends. The former heavyweight champion was strolling down the street when the sounds of commotion caught his attention. Raised voices and a growing crowd drew him closer, his curiosity piqued by the palpable tension in the air. As Tyson approached, he witnessed a scene that made his blood run cold. Officer Steele had Darius pinned against the patrol car. The teen's face contorted in pain as the officer roughly twisted his arm. The brutality of the attack struck a deep chord within Tyson, memories of his own encounters with injustice flooding back in a rush of emotion. The crowd's angry shouts faded to a dull roar as Tyson wrestled with his conscience. He knew the risks of intervening, the legal implications, the potential backlash, the reopening of old wounds. But as he watched Darius struggle against Steele's grip, something deep within Tyson snapped. With determination etched across his face, Tyson began to move. The crowd parted as they recognized the boxing legend. Officer Steele, consumed by his power trip, remained oblivious to Tyson's approach. Tyson's voice, low and firm, cut through the tension. "Officer, that's enough." Steele's head snapped up, his eyes widening in recognition. But before the officer could react, Tyson had positioned himself between Steele and Darius, his powerful frame a shield for the terrified teen. What happened next would be replayed on news channels and social media for days to come. With a swift, calculated move, Tyson gently but firmly removed Steele's hands from Darius, placing himself squarely in the officer's path. The crowd held its collective breath, the air electric with the potential for violence, but violence never came. Instead, Tyson's presence seemed to deflate Steele's aggression. The officer took a step back, suddenly aware of the dozens of camera phones trained on the scene. Tyson's voice, now raised for all to hear, rang out with clarity and purpose. "This stops now. We're all witnesses to injustice, and we won't stand for it anymore." The impact of Tyson's intervention was immediate and far-reaching. Social media exploded with videos of the confrontation, Tyson's actions igniting a firestorm of controversy and admiration. Legal experts debated the implications of his intervention, while activists hailed him as a hero willing to risk everything to stand up for what was right. As the dust settled and Darius was safely reunited with his family, the world grappled with the implications of what they had witnessed. Mike Tyson had become an unlikely symbol of courage and social justice. His shocking act of defiance against police brutality stunned the world and reignited a crucial conversation about systemic racism and the power of individual action in the face of injustice. The aftermath of Mike Tyson's intervention unfolded like a high-stakes drama, with Officer Eric Steele now under intense scrutiny. His past misconduct, previously hidden, came to light as the police department grappled with the explosive incident. Darius Carter's ordeal became a rallying cry for change, resonating with countless individuals who had faced similar injustices. As videos of the confrontation spread, legal experts debated the implications of Tyson's bold action. The question loomed: what consequences would Steele face for his unwarranted aggression? The case against him built rapidly, with each revelation adding to the mounting evidence of misconduct. Past complaints, once buried, painted a damning picture of an officer who had long operated above the law. The police department found itself torn between protecting one of their own and answering the public's calls for justice. Internal affairs investigators uncovered a pattern of behavior that could no longer be ignored or excused. As legal proceedings commenced, the courtroom became a battleground for a larger fight, challenging long-held beliefs about accountability and policing. Prosecutors presented a mountain of evidence, including witness testimonies, body camera footage, and Steele's troubled history. The defense team struggled to counter the overwhelming narrative of an officer who had repeatedly abused his authority, targeting individuals based on race. In a landmark decision, Officer Eric Steele was found guilty on multiple charges, including assault, official misconduct, and civil rights violations. The judge's sentence was severe, reflecting the gravity of Steele's actions and the broader implications for police reform. This verdict represented more than justice for Darius Carter. It was a powerful statement that no one, not even those who wear a badge, is above the law. The case exposed deep-rooted issues of systemic racism within law enforcement and paved the way for meaningful change in police accountability. As news of Officer Steele's conviction spread, protests erupted across the country. People from all walks of life united, demanding comprehensive police reform and an end to systemic racism. The energy was electric, with crowds swelling in major cities and small towns. Signs bearing Darius Carter's name and face became symbols of the movement, a stark reminder of how close an innocent life had come to being destroyed. Amid the familiar chants and raised fists, something extraordinary began to unfold. Unexpected allies emerged, crossing long-established boundaries. Police officers, moved by Darius's story and ashamed of Steele's actions, joined the marches in civilian clothes. Business leaders and community organizers found common ground, working together to draft proposals for meaningful change. The movement had evolved into a powerful call for unity and societal transformation. At the heart of this growing revolution stood Mike Tyson, using his considerable platform to amplify the call for change. The former heavyweight champion's impassioned speeches and media appearances resonated deeply with people who had never before engaged with issues of racial inequality. His raw honesty about his past struggles and his unwavering support for Darius Carter inspired millions to take action in their communities. The media scrutinized every aspect of the case, creating a tapestry of shared experiences that could no longer be ignored. Throughout it all, Darius Carter found his voice as an advocate for justice. The shy teenager, who had once expressed himself through art, now stood before crowds of thousands, sharing his story with quiet strength and determination. His words carried the weight of lived experience, cutting through political rhetoric and touching hearts nationwide. The impact of this single incident rippled through society, challenging long-held beliefs and forcing uncomfortable conversations in homes, workplaces, and institutions across the country. Police departments faced unprecedented pressure to reform their practices, with many implementing new training programs and oversight measures. Communities began to reimagine public safety, exploring alternative models that prioritized de-escalation and mental health support. As the movement grew, it became clear that this was more than just a moment of outrage. It was the beginning of a fundamental shift in how society approached issues of race, power, and justice. The conversation sparked by Darius Carter's encounter with Officer Steele had ignited a flame that would not be easily extinguished, promising a future where equality and accountability were not just ideals, but realities. The power of one person to challenge injustice reverberated through society. Mike Tyson's intervention sparked a movement that swept across the nation, filling streets with protesters and social media with calls for change. The incident forced crucial conversations about police reform and racial justice, compelling society to confront uncomfortable truths. As the dust settled, the impact of Tyson's actions became clear. His courage had ignited a spark, proving that individual acts of bravery could catalyze widespread change. The movement he inspired continues to shape policies and attitudes, pushing for a more equitable future. The responsibility now falls to each of us. We hold the power to make a difference in our communities, to raise our voices against injustice, and to work tirelessly for a world where equality is not just an ideal, but a reality. As we move forward, let us carry the spirit of that fateful day with us, remembering that change begins with a single, brave act.